Do you think that women can be happy without children? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think they can be happy. I know loads of women that put their career first nowadays. And I think a lot of people kind of underestimate how much a child will change your life, because it's not something that goes away. Like if you want to go out for dinner or all the things you can do when you're by yourself without a child, you can't do them. You always have to have childcare. You know, it costs a lot of money. Childcare is very expensive. And there's always stress. There's always the worry of, is my child healthy? Is my child safe? And I think that when you don't have a child, it seems very attractive. And in a lot of ways it is, if it's your dream to have a child. But you also like have to compromise a lot of your own life. So I feel like it really depends on where you stand and what your mindset is if you would like to have a child. Obviously, some people, since they're young, they want to have a child, and you know they want to be a stay-at-home wife, and you know they want the family life and stuff. But I feel like nowadays a lot of women are also like, you know what, to be honest, I have so many dreams and goals for myself, and if a child would come in the picture, it's going to be more difficult. And I also don't want to, you know, be there less for my child, because the minute you put your career first, for example, for myself, if I'm a singer and let's say I would go on a tour, am I going to drop my child with a nanny 24/7? Because that child is not going to be happy to see me 10 minutes a day reading her a book or reading him a book. Like, that's not what parenting is. So it's all these factors come into play. And I've been a nanny. I've seen it. I used to nanny for a billionaire family. And the parents literally sometimes would leave for like 4 weeks. And then the child is with a nanny for 24/7. And the child calls the nanny mommy. So I feel like, you know, it's very hard. And you know, when people say to me, I don't want children, I think a lot of people judge them. But because I'm a nanny, I've seen how much of a pressure it is.
You've seen the people that shouldn't have kids.
Exactly. And then for them, a child is like a Prada bag. It's like sick. I can put my money, when I die, I can give my money to a child. But at the end of the day, you've been with your child for like 10%. That's it, you know? And then they drag their children to like all these events and they act like they're the great mom. And it's like, babes, you weren't here the whole day. And they're like, oh yeah, she's done this at school. And then the most funny thing is that my old nanny children would be like, Mom, you're just showing off, you're never here. And I would be like, or they would be to people like, do you miss your mom? And they were like, no, all she does is party and wear funky clothes. I was like, oh my days, that kid is 6. So it's like...
At 6?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that's also a thing. Children are highly intuitive. They know, you know, that's why children, you know, when children really gravitate towards like certain people.
100%.
And to some people they don't. It's because they feel safe with certain people.
They clock things.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think you can be happy. But if it's really your dream to have a child and then it all comes falling down because you can't have children, then it's a different convo, I guess. But,
that's true.
She made a lot of really good points. I don't think everyone really thinks a lot before they have children. Some people, they really take the time to really understand themselves before they make the decision to have children. You have to be at a place in your life where you're able to not only give financially, but you're able to give your time, because having children requires a lot of devotion. So she was spot on with that. She was a nanny, so of course. Yeah, and I think there is just a lot of pressure from society, no matter who you are, that you should eventually have children, that you should have someone to leave a legacy to, that the whole point of this life is to have children, and in some way there's a pressure. So even for mega billionaires or millionaires who probably shouldn't have children, I know that they've probably experienced pressure not only in society, but just from the biological time clock of women only having a certain window to have children. So I know that those things also influence their decisions. But she definitely made a lot of good points. Go ahead and chime in the comment section. I want to hear from you, and let's continue.
When we go around, I also want you guys to say if you want kids yourself. So do you want kids?
Yeah, I do want
You do?
children.
Okay. And then you want to go next?
So I have an 8-year-old.
Oh, you have an 8?
I am a mum.
Okay.
But I make sure it's very... Sorry. I have an 8-year-old. I am a mum. So, but I'm not... It wasn't planned, and I'm not maternal in that way. So I feel like if I didn't have him then, like now, couldn't imagine anything different. But then literally every person that I said, oh, I'm having a baby, they were like... Why? But it wasn't in the plan. But like I make sure my time is I treat my job as a job. I treat my socialising as like totally separate, as in like it's not. I never take anything away from him. He has my full attention at all times. He's my priority at all times. So in that sense, it's like from a mum's point of view, like I would have been, if you'd asked me before I had him, I'd have been like, I don't know if I'm ever going to have kids. Like, it just wasn't in my plan. But now, because he's there, like, I would not imagine life without him. Like, he's my best friend. We do all, like, I don't know, the bond is just there. Like, no one can describe it. If you're a mum, you feel that. But I also have, like, best mates that have said to me, like, I feel like I'm just not going to have kids. And then it's not like they say it as if they're not going to be happy. It's just like, it's just not in their plan at that moment. But I feel like it's your situation. It's all to do with your relationship, and you're never going to have a kid in like when you're in a bad space unless it's accidental, obviously. So I feel like if you're planning to have kids and you want to have that family life where you're married, your kids, you settle down, and that's like your dream, you cannot be happy without that, because that's your tunnel vision. You want that. So that's what it is. Whereas some people don't have that as their dream.
And there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't want to have kids, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that people know themselves, and if you feel like for whatever reason you don't want to have kids, there shouldn't be a pressure for you to have them, because we don't know what kind of parent you're going to be. We don't want people just having kids just because of whatever reason. You should genuinely want to have a child before having one.
Some people want to be ambitious and like build so much more in a career sense. So it's like, what's your priorities? Do you want the family life? Do you want this life? Or do you want an in-between? Are you ever going to be happy with either?
Do you feel like you would have been equally happy if you didn't have a child?
It's all, I don't know. That's an hard question, because like I was happy, but I was very young. I had him at 21. So
I like that Pearl asked that question. I think a lot of people are ashamed to say, people who are parents who regret having children, they're ashamed to say that they would be happier without children, because the truth is sometimes people have kids and they don't even realize until they have kids that they didn't want them. If you were to give them a choice to go back in time, they would not have had children when they had them, for whatever reason. And that's a whole group of parents that I feel like they kind of get shamed, or we don't really talk about. But there are parents out there like that, myself included. If I had a chance to go back in time, I would have waited to have children. I really regret that I had them so young, before I even knew myself. Do I love my kids? Of course. That's not what we're talking about. Sometimes you make decisions before you really know where you're headed, or what you want to do, or who you are as a person. I feel like that category of parents gets looked over. You're shunned. You're kind of looked down upon. Oh, you know, but it's a very real thing. Not everybody. There's a category of people who really want to have kids and can't have kids. There's the ones that really want to have kids and they have kids and they live happily ever after. And there's also a category of people who don't know. There's people who don't want to have children and people are forcing them, or society is pressuring them. There's people who really want kids and then they have kids and they're like, wow, this is way different than what I expected it to be. I'm alone, or I'm depressed, or I can't figure it out, or things are just not happening the way that I always envisioned them to be. And that's a real thing. Like, we got to talk about that.
I'm 21. So it's like at 21, what worries do I have really?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I didn't know life as I do now. Whereas I feel like if I saw myself at 21, I would have said, no, I'm not having kids yet, blah, blah, blah. But me at 29, like, and then if you ask me then, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to. Whereas at 29, I'd be like, I don't know what I would have. I still live my life. We go and, like, we do things a lot together. Like, I don't see why he has to not be there for me to not have fun. Like, we go on dates together. Every Sunday we do as dates. Like, that's my life partner at the moment.
Do you want more kids?
It's just us. In my situation, I'm single, so no.
Okay.
Like, but it would not to say that would
for the right guy.
Would
you have more kids? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you? Do you want kids?
So I always wanted to be a young mum, and then I turned 30 this year, and I actually had like a midlife crisis because I was like, I have no kids, I have no relationship, like my career's good, but I want that like old school family, like that love, that life. And I did get sad thinking like, I'm not going to just settle and like have someone's kid just for the sake of having a kid. Like I want the whole package. So if I can't have that, like, am I ever going to have kids? And I did actually have a conversation with my mum the other day and I was like, do I need to freeze my eggs? And it was like a serious thing because I was like, what if I meet someone in a couple of years and, you know, like your body, you don't know what's going to happen to it as a woman. So it's quite a...
You do know what's going to happen to your body as a woman. Eventually, you're not going to be able to have kids. That's the inevitable.
Scary thing if it's something that you want.
Okay, what do you think?
From a personal perspective, do I want kids, first of all? Yes, I do want children of my own. I think, obviously, like some of the ladies have said, society pressures women to kind of think that that's sort of the road to go down, to have children, have a family, be a wife, potentially. And I think, especially where you reach a certain, well, women anyway are on a biological clock, whether we like it or not, we are. And I think that keeps us, some of us, up at night knowing that. So having the thought of having children for most women is obviously a priority for most of us. But obviously most women would like a relationship, a foundation, a family. I think in today's society, looking at a lot of the relationships, especially the ones that are put on platforms and social media, a lot of them seem to be failing and collapsing. So I think, no shade, but it's real talk. So I think in one hand, you want, you do want children, but at the same time, you don't want to just settle down with anybody and end up in a worse situation. There are plenty of women out there that are single mums and are doing a great job, but still have always said they would have preferred to have done this with a partner. So I think it's down to the individual finding their happiness. I think, like some people have said already, it depends on who you are, what you call and class as happiness, because some people's happiness are traveling, exploring, and some people are just free-spirited and they're interested in other things. Other people have that tunnel vision of wanting kids and a family. So to answer the question in terms of happiness, it will be obviously down to the person, but I definitely think that women should be selfish in their decisions.
Yes, I definitely, as a parent, as someone who was a young mother, I really wish that someone would have told me to be selfish in my decisions. Because ultimately, as women, if you don't have the safety net of marriage, then the responsibility of parenthood ultimately falls on you as the mother. And so that's something that didn't really sink in until I had to be a single parent. But just knowing that, like truly knowing that within your heart and understanding that part of life, it will make all the difference in your decisions. And if you're someone who's just kind of going through the motions or walking through life, you don't really know what you're doing, you don't really have a sense of purpose yet, that stuff can get out of control pretty quickly. So that part about being selfish is very important, because as a woman, ultimately, you're the one who's going to have to go through the pregnancy. You're the one who's going to do the majority of the child rearing. So you have to be selfish.
So that they're not in predicaments and allow themselves to be pressured by not even just by society, by immediate people like family and friends.
How do you know it's society and not biology? Because, you know, like we've done it a certain way for thousands of years.
I think it's a bit of both. I think because we all know that we're on a biological clock.
Back to that part about where she was saying not just society, but your family members can pressure you. It's so easy for you to get caught up in the emotions and feelings of your family members. Your family members will be so excited there in the beginning. Oh, a baby's coming, a baby's coming. You know, they'll buy you all the things, tell you all the sweet nothings about how they're going to help you. And, you know, they'll even be there for you. But somewhere along the way, you're going to realize that it's just you and that child. The ultimate responsibility falls back on you. And I don't think that message really resonates the way it should.
We have we're all thinking the same thing, but also I think, I don't know, obviously we have things like social media where you see people uploading at a certain age that they're married. I've got lots of friends of mine that are engaged or about to walk down the aisle at the moment. And where you've been socialized to go to school at a certain age with your age mates, then you go to college at a certain age with your age mates, then you graduate, you get a job. You've been conditioned that at a certain age you do the same thing as your age mates. When you get to a certain age and people around you are doing certain things like getting proposed to and you're not, it kind of does make you feel a type of way, if I'm being completely real. So did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay. You and then
Very, very well articulated.
and you next.
That's fine.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't want. Oh, sorry. Is that better? I'm not gonna lie, I don't want children. And I think when I was younger, I used to
How
think,
old are you?
I'm 23.
And you don't want kids already?
I'm turning 24 next month,
You're
yes.
24 and you don't want kids already?
I used to, when I was younger, I was like, oh, maybe if
How much younger? You're only 24.
No. When I was like 19, 18, 21, whatever,
Okay.
I used to think that maybe if I met somebody that really wanted children, I might change my mind and I might be like, you know what, maybe one kid. But as the older I'm getting, the more I hear about, first of all, pregnancy. Secondly, raising a child. It takes up so much of your life. And maybe I'm selfish, maybe I'm not, I don't know. But at this point in my life, I think to myself, I'm like, do I genuinely want to raise a kid? No.
Okay.
I don't. I like children as well. That's the funny part. I love children. If my friends had kids, I'm going to be the fucking auntie that's fucking, do you know what I mean? I'm going to spend money on you. But to have my own child that I'm raising 24/7, I'm not doing those sleepless nights.
How would you think about being like 55 and childless? Like you're
as
cool?
long as me and my babes are traveling, having a good time, I'm not finna have children.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. And then what about you?
I think it depends on what type of person you are. So if you're one of them people, depends on other people to be happy, like you rely on other people's happiness for your happiness, you're going to want kids to make you happy. Like I've got friends who have got kids like Shan and stuff like that. And I've got friends who can't have kids, but all they want is a kid. But I know if they have that kid, it's going to make them happy. So I think it depends on your own person, who you are, whether you want kids or not, and whether it just depends what brings you happiness, really, I think. So some people's happiness is kids, some people's it's not, some people's it's travelling. Do you know what I mean? So to me, it don't really matter. Okay. I want kids. I want 2 kids. And I'm done.
I love when I see young people who are very self-aware. That word selfish is such a tricky word because it's always conveyed to be negative if you're a selfish person, but you really need that as a survival skill in this life. You really have to think about what's best for you and you have to prioritize that, and you can't waver based on the expectations of the people around you, society, your biological clock. You really have to think about who you are. I often wish that I was as self-aware of myself when I was younger as I am now. Of course, you can't go back and change the past, but I did notice that these young people are very self-aware, and I love that. Teach that to your children, because if you don't teach that to your children, then they're going to stumble a lot along the way. They're going to make decisions that are not true to themselves, and it can really just mess you up. So anyway, I just wanted to look at that video. The conversation looked interesting. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.